Hello guys and welcome to today's tutorial of Python. So in this course of 2 days we are going to learn about basics of Python to advanced concepts of Python. So it's going to be a very informative session on Python. We are going to start with the very basics, how Python came into the picture and how you can work with it, and we are going to see some advanced concepts as well. So keep watching this video till the end because we are going to talk about some interesting topics about Python. Yeah, so let's start today's video. So first of all, I have made some notes, so we are going to see that notes so that you get a better understanding. So let's see. So first, what is Python, right? Why there is so much hype about Python and why we should learn it? Before starting any language, we should know why we are learning this, right? So first, let's see what is Python. So Python is a popular general purpose interpreted, interactive, object oriented and high level programming language. Yeah, so these are some very complicated words, but the meaning of which are very simple, so don't get confused. So first of all, let's see one word by word. So what is interpreted? So a program can be either interpreted or compiled, right? So interpreted is something that it interprets code line by line, and compile is one at a time your whole code, correct? So it is interpreted. Then it is interactive, so user can interact with the program. Then it is object oriented. So there is some confusion about either it is object oriented or let's say functional or modular programming language, but to generalize it we say it as an object oriented programming language only, correct? And it is a high level programming language, right? So Python is a dynamically typed and garbage collected programming language. So it is type inferred language, so it is dynamically typed. It was created by Guido van Rossum during 1985 to 1990, correct? So it was this time when Python came into the picture. So like Perl, Python source code is also available under the GNU public license, right? Which is general public license. So procedural, object oriented and functional programming language. So it follows these three paradigms, right? The Python design philosophy emphasizes on code readability with use of significant indentation, correct? So this is the main feature of Python. So it focuses more on the code readability, whether it is easy to read and easy to write, correct? Now let's see what are the advantages of Python. So Python is interpreted. So Python is processed at runtime by interpreter. You don't need to compile your program before executing it. This is similar to Perl and PHP. So what does this mean? So let's say you are using some compiled language like C. So first you have to compile your whole code, then an executable file will be generated and then you can execute that file, correct? But Python is an interpreted language. So code will be interpreted line by line and it will be run there and there only, correct? Python is interactive, so you can actually sit at Python prompt and interact with the interpreter directly to write your programs. We'll see that how you can do that. So Python is object oriented. Python supports object oriented style or techniques of programming that encapsulates code within objects, correct? So Python is a great language for beginner level programmers and supports the development of wide range of applications from simple text processing to www browser of games, correct? So most of the beginners which are new to programming, they try to opt for Python only because it is easy to read and write, correct? So now let's see some applications of Python. So it is easy to learn, it is easy to read, easy to maintain, broad standard library. So it is mostly famous for its broad standard library, so it makes the work easier for the coder, correct? So then it's portable, it's extendable, it has the large database, GUI programming, and it's scalable. So these are some applications of Python, correct? Now let's have an overview of Python. So it is available for use under Python Software Foundation license, which is the GNU general public license. So it is free for you to use. To facilitate new features and maintain the readability, the Python enhancement proposal PEP process was developed. This process allows anyone to submit a PEP for new feature, library or other addition. So Python has a large community. Everyone tend to provide for it. So what is it? It's Python enhancement proposal. So let's say if someone wants some enhancement to the language, they can propose for it, right? Then there is Zen of Python, set of 19 guiding rules by Tim Peters. So there is an interesting story behind this. So first let's see what's Zen of Python. So it is nothing but rules, some kind of rules for Python. So let's say every time there is some new feature that is wanted to be added into the language, right? So it follows this Zen of Python. So it is guiding rules for these new enhancements. Correct. So it is a set of 19 guiding rules by Tim Peters. So there is an interesting story behind this. So in during 1990s, or I guess 1999, there was some talks about, let's say, we make some rules, guiding rules for Python, so that it becomes a large community and everyone can provide for it, right? So back then there was an email going on, like email group going on. So there Tim Peters, as a joke, wrote this 19 rules of guiding rules of Python, and in that he wrote as these rules are feces, right? Then he deleted that, but when he deleted, it was written as Control H, because back then it was when you try to delete with your keyboard, it was provided with Control H, correct? So it then instead of feces he wrote theses, right? So it was a joke, but yeah, this is how Zen of Python came into the picture. Then Guido van Rossum has created Python in 1989 at Netherlands National Research Institute, and Python was released in 1991, correct? So now the notes are very lengthy, so we'll try to move on to practical coding, right? So first of all, what you can do is, we are going to use Jupyter for this, but first you have to install Python onto your system, right? So if you have already installed, how you can check it, that if you have installed or not? So go on to, if you are on Windows, open your command prompt, and what you can check is, you can say Python, and you can check the version of your Python. So it is saying I'm using this 3.10.8 version, right? So the latest version of Pythons are available, like 3.11 and so on, but Python 3 is the latest one, correct? So don't use Python 2 and before that, use Python 3 only. And now if you have not installed Python, what you can do is go onto your browser and type Python download. Yeah, so from over here, the official website, you can scroll down onto this and you can download the Python, correct? So after you download the Python, you'll get this Python interpreter. So from over here also, it is an interactive Python. Over here, from over here also, you can write your Python code. Yeah, but for today's video, we are going to use Jupyter Notebook, because it is also an interactive Python. If you want to use your inbuilt Python, you can use that, or else you can make Python files and run it. But for this video, we are going to use Jupyter Notebooks, correct? So now let's start with our Python code. So I have also made some notes over here. So it is stating same only, what is Python. So Python is a very popular programming language. What it is used for? So it is used for your web development, your software development, mathematics, systems scripting. Then what Python can do? So Python can be used on a server to create web applications. Python can be used alongside software to create workflows, right? Python can be connected to database systems. So there are many things that Python can do. Then let's see why Python. We already seen that. So Python works on different platforms. So let's say it doesn't matter if you are using Python on Windows, Mac, or Linux, Raspberry Pi, etc. It will work the same. So Python has simple syntax similar to English language, so it is easy for us to understand, right? Then Python has syntax that allows developer to write program with fewer lines than some other programming languages. Python runs on an interpreted system, meaning that code can be executed as soon as it is written, right? One more advantage that interpreted language provides us is that if you have made a mistake in one line, it will show you there and then, rather than compiling your whole program and then finding your errors. Yeah. So this was some theory about Python. Now let's start with our code. So for first line, we write in every language, it is hello world program. So to print anything on your onto your console, what do? There is a print function in Python. You can use that. So what you can say is print, and in the parenthesis, we'll write our string. So we are saying hello world, correct? And then you can run it from over here, or else you can print and press shift and enter. So you'll get an output over here, correct? Then we already checked with our version, correct? Now let's see what is Python indentation. So we saw that Python focuses more on the code readability, correct? So how does Python achieve that? So Python achieve that with via using indentation. So indentation is very important part of Python code. So indentation refers to the spaces at the beginning of your code, correct? So let's say you provide space over here. So this is nothing but your indentation, correct? So we tend to use tabs for our indentation in Python rather than using 4 spaces, or let's say space bars. We use tabs in Python, correct? Now let's say why indentation is important. So let's say this is a if block. When we want to check a condition, we use if block, right? Don't worry about how you can use it, just I'm showing the example of the indentation, correct? So this will work, correct? But let's say you use different indentation for different commands, right? So let's say I have used like this, so this will give us an error. So indentation are very important. So inside a block, right, we are inside a block, correct? Indentation should be same for all the commands. So for that purpose only we use tabs, correct? So this is something about your indentation. Now we'll see what are Python comments. So you have observed Python comments already. I have written all these are comments only. So why are comments used? So it is used to make code more readable, or let's say you have written some code, and in future when you will refer to that code, so it is used for programmers to get a better understanding of the code, correct? So let's say you have written some logic, and in future when you'll see the program, if you have written some comments to explain it, you'll get a better understanding, correct? So comments can be used to explain Python code. Comments can be used to make the code more readable, correct? So comments can be used to prevent execution when testing code. So let's say you are testing your code and there are some errors, so you can comment that code out and interpreter won't interpret it, right? So how you can write your Python comments? So you can use hash, correct? So if I remove this, it is no more a Python comment, but if you add hash, it is a Python comment now, correct? So let's say this is your single line comments. When you want to write a comment which is consisting of a single line, then you use hash. Or let's say you want to write multiple lines of comments, then what will do? You'll add hash onto every other line, every new line, correct? So this is one way to put your comment. Or what you can use is you can also use a string containing with 3 containing as a string. So this string will be ignored by the interpreter. So we use 3 inverted commas, right, to work it like as a comment. This is a comment, so this will work as a comment because this string will be ignored by the interpreter. That's why this is a comment, correct? So this is another way you can give comments to your code, correct? Now we'll start with our Python variables. So what are variables? So let's say variables are your named memory location. So let's say you want to store some number, or let's say your name, or let's say user's age, or let's say anything you want to store it onto your system. So how you can store that onto your system? So you make a variable. So variables are nothing but named memory location, correct? So we store this data onto our named memory location. So what does the variable imply to you? So a value which can be changed, correct? So variables are containers for storing data values. So how you can create variables in your Python? So Python has no command for declaring a variable. A variable is created as soon as you have assigned a value to it. So it is a dynamically typed language. So you don't have to specify the data type as well. So let's say if you have written some C code previously, what we used to do? We used to do int a is equal to 10. So this 10 will be stored onto this named memory location a, and the data type of it will be integer, correct? But in Python we don't do this. What we do, we just say our variable name a. So let's say number, this is your variable name, and we store the data, correct? We don't use semicolons. If you want to use, you can, but we don't in Python, correct? So now 10 will be stored onto this number memory location, right? So this is how you can create a variable. So different types of data you can store. So let's say my name. So this is a string variable. Or let's say my name is equal to, or let's say my data is equal to some floating point numbers, correct? So this is how you can create variables. Now let's see what is casting. So we saw it is an type inferred language, so you don't have to specify the type of your data type. So let me explain you what is a data type, right? So in computer, all of the data that you want to store, the computer understands only the binary language, correct? Zeros and ones, right? So via using combinations of the zeros and ones, we can achieve different types of data. We can store different type of data. So let's say we want to store an integer onto our computer, right? So it will take different amount of space, correct? If we want to store the string, it will require different amount of space. If it's a floating number, it will require different amount of space, right? So what we do is we make combinations of the zeros and ones to create different data types to store different types of data onto our systems, right? So these are nothing but your data types. So which can be your data types? So let's say there can be integers, or integers are numbers only. Then it can be strings, like sequence of characters. Then it can be floating point numbers, it can be collection of values, collection of numbers, right? So these are your different data types. So we'll see casting later. First let's move on. So how you can get a type of a variable? So let's say we have created some variables, right? Now we want to check what is the data type of this variable. So how you can do this? You can say print, you can say type, and you can specify your variable's name. So it is showing us that the type of this data type is class integer. So in Python, everything is considered as objects, right? We'll see this in later, but for now understand everything in Python that you do are considered as object, right? So it is showing us class integer. So this object is of class integer, right? So let's say, and what is this type? So type is a function to get the data type of a variable, correct? And we are putting it inside the print because we want to print it on the console. Type, let's say my name, print my data type, my data, right? So this is of type string, str, and this is of type float, correct? You can also create imaginary numbers. correct? So this is your complex numbers. So this J part is your imaginary type, imaginary part, correct? So the different types of data you can store onto your computer, right? So we'll see casting later. First, let's move on. Now we'll see what are the naming convention of your variables. So how you can name them, correct? So there are some set of rules that you have to follow to name your variables. You can't name anything of your variables, correct? So a variable can have short name like x, y, let's say single characters, or more descriptive names like age, car name, total volume, right? So descriptive names are suggested because it gives more code readability, right? Then a variable must start with a letter or underscore character, right? So when you make a variable, it should start with a character or let's say an underscore, right? Then a variable cannot start with a number. So let's say if we put some number before our variable, it will give us an error. So what is an error? So error suggests you that you have made some mistake onto your Python syntax, right? You have written something wrong. So what is syntax? So in simple terms, syntax is nothing but a grammar of your language. So let's say we are communicating via English right now, correct? So I might make some mistakes while I'm trying to communicate with you guys, right? So these are nothing but your grammar mistakes. So this is your syntax mistakes. So compile interpreter is trying to tell you that you have made some mistakes. Please check it, right? Then variable cannot start with a number. A variable name can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscores, right? So you cannot use special symbols like dollar, percentage, asterisk, all that, right? Variable names are case sensitive. So what is case sensitivity? So capital letters and small letters are considered different, right? So let's say this is small, this number is in small letters, right? So let's say we make a different number with different value, but the name the first letter is capital, right? Let's provide some different, let's say we are providing a string over here, right? Let's remove this, print type number, right? So if you observe, this number is taking this value and this number is taking this value, right? So it is case sensitive. Small number and capital number is different, right? And a variable name cannot be any of the Python reserved keywords. So there are some reserved keywords in Python to do some specific tasks. So let's say if you are trying to make a loop, so for is your reserved keyword, if is your reserved keyword, while is your reserved keyword, break is your reserved keyword. So you can go on to the web and check the list of reserved keywords in Python, right? So you cannot use them to create variable names. So you can also assign many values to multiple variables in a single line. So let's say we are trying to say number 1, number 2, number 3 is equal to, we can say 10, 20 and 30. Now let's say you want to print what is stored onto this named memory location. So what you can do, you can just specify the name of the variable, right? So what it is doing, for the first variable it is taking the first value, for the second variable it is taking second value, and for the third variable it is taking the third value, and we are separating them by commas, correct? So it allows you to do this also. Then you can also assign single value to multiple variables. So what you can say, num1, num2, num3 is equal to 10. So 10 will be assigned to all three of them, correct? No need to check that. So output variables, how you can print this, we already saw. What you can do is you can say print, and then you can just specify the name of the variable, right? So it is that easy. Now we'll move on with built-in data types. So we saw what is built-in data types. uh, so if you want to get better understanding of data types, you have to work closely with the hardware of the computer, right? Which is not the course of this video, so I'm not going to explain this, but yeah, I give you the basic understanding of how it is working. So we are making different combinations of zeros and ones to store different types of data, right? So in programming, data type is an important concept. Variables can store data of different types, and different types can do different things, right? So Python has following data types, which are built-in data types. You can also create user-defined data types. We'll see that, but these are the built-in data types, which comes by default, right? So text type. Let's say you want to store some text onto your computer. So the text type is your string data type, which is of class str, right? Then there are numeric data types, which is your integer, float, and complex. We saw them. Then there are sequence types. Let's say you want to store sequence of values, then you can store use lists, tuples, and range. Then there is mapping type, you can use dictionaries. Set types, there is set and frozen set. Boolean type, there is bool. And there is also none type, which is none type, right? So this is a special type which is only in the Python. So it suggests thus it is not of any type, so it is none type, right? So now let's work with all of these data types, as they are very important. Right, let's start. So we'll first start with Python numbers. So there are three numeric types in Python, so which is integer, float, and complex. So we already saw what is integer, what is float, and what is complex. So let's see one more time. So this x is your simple integer. So any number which is not containing any decimal points is your integer type, right? A number containing an decimal part, it is your float data type. And a number containing an imaginary part, it is your complex data type, right? So this is how you can work with it. So we saw that Python is type inferred language, right? So you don't have to specify the type of the data. But let's say for some in some instances you want to declare the type of the data, right? You want that I will only declare the type of the data, what is the type of it, right? So for that you can use some built-in functions for casting of the data types. So let's say user have given some input in integer type, right? And you want to convert that integer type into float type, right? So let's say you are calculating some radius, or let's say you are calculating an area of a square, right? So when you are working with it, let's say if you work with integer, you might get different answers if you work with integers and if you work with floats, right? You'll get mistakes in decimal points, right? So for that purpose you want to change the data type of it. So for that purpose there are some built-in functions that you can use. So let's say this x is of type integer, right? So you can convert this x type into a float type. So what you can say, float, and you can convert this x into a float type, and then you can check the type of it. Let's first print the value of the x, then we'll print the value of num1, then we'll also check the type of it, right? So first we had this x in class integer, then we had this class in this num1 in class float, right? So this is how you can convert one type into another type. So let's say this x only, now we want to convert this into complex type. So we just write complex, and in parenthesis we specify our variable's name, which is x. Now we just check what is inside num2 and what is the type of this num2, right? So this is now containing an imaginary part with 0, and it is of class complex, right? So this is how you can convert, right? You can also do vice versa. You can also convert float into integer, right? So play with it. Now let's work with strings. So what are strings? Strings are nothing but sequence of characters, or let's say in simple term, it is some text, right? So strings in Python are either surrounded by single quotation marks or double quotation marks, right? So it doesn't matter if you use single quotation or double quotation. So hello inside a single quotation and hello inside a double quotation are same only. So it depends upon the coder what you want to use, doesn't matter. So how you can print this text? So simple only, you use your print function, and inside this you put quotation marks. Let's say this is my string, correct? Then you can also assign this text to a variable. So let's say my string is equal to uh, I am making this text, correct? So you can assign this text onto a variable, and then you can print the value of that variable, correct? Then you can also use multi-line strings. So to use multi-line strings, what you can use 3 quotation marks, single quotation or double quotation, again doesn't matter. This is new line, this is third line, correct? So this is how you can also create multiple lines of text, correct? So let's check what happens if you use single quotation with multiple lines. So if you can observe, it is not considering this as text, so it will give you an error. For that reason, when you are working with multi lines of text, you use triple quotation marks. And when you don't assign this string, which is inside the triple quotation mark, and you don't assign it to a variable, it is considered as an comment, as we saw. Let's remove this and check. So it is the feature of Jupyter that it is printing over here, but it is considered as a comment, correct? So this is how you can work with your string. So strings are considered as arrays into Python. So what is arrays? So arrays are nothing but collection of values, right? So like many other programming languages, strings in Python are arrays of bytes representing Unicode characters. So Unicode characters are nothing but a standard which specifies your some numeric value for your characters, right? So it is again difficult terminology, but it meaning of it is very simple. So it is a standard Unicode characters, correct? However, Python does not have character data type. So if you want to store a single character, or let's say multiple lines of text, you use string class only, correct? So yeah, we saw strings are considered as arrays, right? So you can access the string elements like this. So let me show you. So let's say let's create one more variable first. Let's remove this. Let's say my string is equal to first, second, third, right? So how you can access this is, so it is considered as array, right? So we have something called as index values in arrays. So let me show you. Let's say my string, and let's say 0. So we are getting the first character. So how it is working? So let's say all of these characters have a number assigned to it starting from 0, index values. So F will be considered as 0, I on the first index, R on the second, S on the third index, and so on. So you can access this via putting them in square brackets. Correct? So since strings are arrays, we can loop through the characters in a string with a for loop. So we'll see how you can work with for loop. Uh, but first, let me give you just an example. So let's say for x in, let's say, my string print x. Yeah. So we are getting an output like this. So it is going to every single characters and it is printing this, right? So we'll see what are loops later. So let's say you want to get the length of your text of, or let's say your string. So how you can calculate the length? So there is an inbuilt function again which is called len. So how you can work with it? So you can say print, you can say length function, and inside parenthesis you can say my string. So it will give you the length of it. So how it is containing 18 characters. So let's say this is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 and 18, correct? So white spaces are also considered as a character, right? So this is how you can get a length of your string, correct? Now we'll work with something called as string slicing. So it is very helpful. So we'll see how you can work with it. So you can return a range of characters by using slice in syntax. Specify the start index and the end index separated by a colon to return a part of a string. Slice from the start by leaving the start index. So let me give you an example what is meant by slicing over here. So let's say this is your string, correct? So let's say you want to access uh, this from this f to, let's say, this s. You want to access this first only, correct? So how you can do this is, what you can say, print, you can say my string, and then what you can specify from 0 till, let's count, 0 1 2 3 4 and 5. From 0 to 5 give me that much text only, correct? So we are getting first. So why we took 5 over here? So 0 1 2 3 and 4, correct? So t is the fourth character, right? But we are taking 0 to 5. Why? Because this is excluded. So let's say if you provide 0 to 5, it will print only 0 to 4, right? So the second index is excluded. So that for that purpose we gave it like 0 to 5. So let's say if you provide 0 to 4, what will happen? This t will be gone, correct? So for that we gave it like 0 to 5. So this is known as your Python string slicing. So let's say you provide only the first index and after colon you don't provide anything, so it will give you the whole string. So what do we do in Python string slicing? So inside the parent square brackets, as it is considered as array, so we can use this square brackets. So we provide the starting index and the ending index, correct? So this is how you can use string slicing. So let's say negative, okay, let's see negative indexing, how you can work with negative indexing. So negative indexing will start something like this. So it will start from here and it will start in negative. So this d is considered as -1, -2, -3, -4 and -5, correct? So let's try that. -1 to -5. Let me just reload this. Yeah, so let's say you are providing -1. So what you are getting? This first character from behind, right? right? So what is happening over here? So we are taking from 0 till -1. So -1 will be excluded and we are getting till r, right? So this is how you can work with negative indexing also, right? So then there are Python has some built-in methods that you can use on your strings to manipulate them. So let's say you have some let's consider this string only. So it is in the small letters, right? So let's say you want to convert it into the capital letters. So what you can say, print my string dot upper. So if you observe, we are getting this into capital letters, right? So let's say over here we had some capital letters, and now we want that all of the string should be in lower letters only. So what you can say, print my string dot lower, right? Then we can also use strip. So let's say there are some spaces inside string which is unnecessary, so you can remove the spaces via using strip method. So if you observe, we are removing the spaces, right? You can also use replace. So let's say new string is equal to my string dot replace with something new. Okay, we'll use this directly. My string something new. We will see this method later. Let's move on for now. So these are some, I have listed out some string methods for you. So these are some methods that you can use on with strings. So if you want, you can take notes and work with it. So there are many methods that you can work with. So it is not possible to cover every method. So I request you to take notes of these methods, right? And it is also available online, so you can browse through it. So whenever you browse through online material, I request you go to the official documentation of Python only, right? So you'll get right information. Now we'll move on to our next data type, which is list. So list is a sequence data type. So lists are used to store multiple items in a single variable. So let's say till now what we had to do if we want to store data, right? So let's say we want to store 10, 20 and 30 onto our computer. So let's say we were making 3 variables for this 3 different data, right? So let's say it becomes very tedious for us to declare a new variable every time and then assigning data to it. So for that, what we did, we used some collection data types, sequence data types, in which you can store multiple values into a single variable name only, right? So the first data type of this kind is list. So lists are used to store multiple items in a single variable. So lists are one of the 4 built-in data types in Python used to store collection of data. So which are the other 3? So other 3 are your tuples, sets and dictionaries, correct? So dictionaries is your also a mapping data type. So how you can create lists? So we create lists with square brackets. Let's say my list is equal to, and inside square brackets we provide first, second, third. Let's try what is the type of this variable. So it is a type of list, right? So list items are ordered, changeable and allow duplicate values. So these are your ordered values, and indexed values. So let's say this first is your 0th index, this second is your first index, and this third is your second index. So it is indexed. So you can also store duplicate values because the index are different, like in arrays only. The index value starts from 0 and goes till n, goes till the length of the variable -1. Correct? So how you can print this data? So you can say print my list, right? So this is how you can create and print a list. So lists item are indexed. The first item has 0, the second item has index 1, and so on. It is ordered. Then if you add new items to a list, item will be placed at the end of the lists. The items which we stored in your list can be changeable. So let's say we can store something different instead of first. So let's say my list 1 is equal to second print my, okay, we are already printing my list. Correct? So now on the 0th index we are getting second because we changed it, right? So how you can access lists item, we already saw. So we can access lists item like this, my list, and inside it we can provide the index of it. So this is your first index, which is this second. On the 0th index we'll get second again because we have changed it. Let's change it again. So we are getting first. So my negative indexing also works with this because this is also first, the -1 index. So let's say -2, so we'll getting third. If we say -3, we'll get second, correct, and so on. So you can change items as we saw. Now let's say you have made some list and you want to add some items onto it. So there is one method called as insert method. So what does insert method do? So let's see. So we have made a list, right? And inside, in the when we want to use some method of a list, what we do, we specify the name of our list, then a dot and the method name, which is insert, and inside uh, inside parenthesis what we are providing. So we are saying on the first index make the value to orange, correct? So if you observe, on the first index it is banana over here, and we are saying on the first index add orange. So we are adding orange onto our first index, and then all of them will be moved to the next index, correct? So this is how you can append some values onto your list. So how you can remove specified item? So there is one method called as remove to specify specified items. So let's say what is the name? Let's say this list dot remove orange, print this list. So orange is now removed. So we provide the value of the data which we want to remove. So it is not necessary also that you store strings only. You can store integers, complex data types, float data types, and any data type that you want to store, or a combination of everyone. Let's say you want to store some numbers, some text all together. So you can. For the example purpose, we are storing the text only. Correct? Now let's say you want to, there is one more method. So what you can do is you can say this list dot pop, and you can specify the index of the value which you want to pop. Let's say delete. Here we are getting this error. Okay, so we already run this code one time, right? So orange is not in the list anymore, so remove will give us an error, right? So you have to remember this. So let's say you want to remove some data from your list, right? And you're providing something which is not present in the list, so it will give you an error, correct? So pop, inside pop, what we provide index value, correct? Now we'll see what is list comprehension. So list comprehension offers a shorter syntax when you want to create a new list based on the values of existing list, correct? So let's say we have one list. Let's say we have one list named as fruits, and uh, I want that if there is an a inside any fruit, then only it will be contained in the new list. So what you can do is, inside square brackets we can say x for x in fruits if a in x. So I'll try to explain this to you, but if it's hard for you, skip this for now. We'll see after we learn loops, right? So it will give you better understanding. So what we are saying, store x inside this list for is a loop x in fruits. So it will loop through every values of this list. And what we are checking, we are checking if there is a present in the value of the x. So it is saying that if there is a value present a in the name of the fruit, then only consider this in the new list, right? So this is your list comprehension. So now we'll move on to the next data type, which is your tuple. So tuples are used to store multiple items in a single variable, same as lists. So tuple is one of the four built-in data types in Python used to store collection of data. So tuple is collection which is ordered and unchangeable. So tuples are, if you observe a difference over here, so tuple values are unchangeable, whereas in lists we could change the value of the list data, correct? So tuples are written with a round brackets. Again, difference between list and tuples, it is ordered, it is unchangeable. Tuples are unchangeable, meaning that we cannot change, add or remove items after tuple has been created, and it allows duplicate values. So although tuples are unchangeable, there are workarounds. So we can add, change and manipulate it. So how you can create a tuple is, let's say my tuple is equal to, let's say same only again, first, second, third, print type of your my tuple. So it is a type of class tuple, right? It also allows duplicate values, nothing wrong with it. So let's say you want to create a tuple which is consisting of only a single variable, or let's say single value, right? So if you try to do something like this, so let's say new tuple is equal to single value, and try to print the type of this. So it will give you a string, correct? So why it is so? Because it is ignoring this parenthesis and it is considered as a string. So let's say if you want to store a single valued tuple, so what you can do is, after the value you just provide a comma, so it will be considered as a tuple now, right? So how you can access tuple values? So same as lists only, you provide the name of your tuple, let's say my tuple. So because they are indexed, you can use it with index values, right? Same as lists only, you can work with it. So tuple values are unchangeable, so it means you cannot change the value which have been stored inside a tuple once it has been created. But there are some workarounds. So how you can change tuple values is, so what we'll do, we'll convert this tuple into a list first. So what we are doing, we are casting it to a list, and then we are modifying the list item, and then again we are converting this list into a tuple, right? So how you can do this? So let's say you created an tuple which is named x, right? Then we are converting this tuple into a list. So how you can convert a tuple into a list? So we provide, there is a function again which is named as list, and inside this we provide our tuple. So now it is converted to a list, and then we are modifying that on the first index, make banana to kiwi, and then again we are changing it to tuple only, right? So what is happening over here, it is not pointing to the same data which is stored onto your computer. It is creating a new data, it is changing there, and it is again providing this to a variable, right? So yeah, so now we can change it, right? So now we'll move on to our next data type, which is of set. So sets are used to store multiple items in a single variable, same as lists and tuples. So set is one of the 4 built-in data types in Python used to store collection data. The other 3 are list, tuple, and dictionary, right? So a set is a collection which is unordered, unchangeable, and unindexed. So it is different from tuples and lists. So it is not ordered, so we cannot use index values. It is unchangeable, so you cannot modify, add, update, or delete anything inside a set, right? So yeah, and also it doesn't allow you duplicate values, so all the values should be different only, right? So how you can access items inside a set? So you cannot use index values, right? Because it is unindexed, but you can loop through your whole set and you can access the items, right? So how you can create a set? First let's see this. So let's say my set, and inside curly braces you say first, second, third. So we are getting a set over here, correct? So now how you can access values? So you can just say my set, so we'll get your whole set, correct? How you can add items to your set? So you can use add method. So let's see this example over here. So what we are saying, this set, we have made some set, and then we are saying add orange, and then we are printing it, correct? So orange is appended in the last of the set. So in the third version, Python 3, the third version of Python, sets are considered as ordered, right? It was not considered as order in the previous versions, so that's why it is working like that only. But in the newer versions, if you are using Python 3, it is ordered. So when you add an item to your ordered set, so it will add it to the last index, right? So if you try to do this, so let's say print this set, let's say 1, so you'll get an error because it is unindexed. Although it is unindexed, it is considered as ordered into the newer versions of Python, so it is added onto the last index, right? Now let's see how you can remove item from a set. So to remove an item from a set, what you can do is you can use two methods, which is one method is remove and one method is discard method. So there is a difference between two of them. So if item to be removed from the set does not exist, remove will generate you an error. So we have already seen this. Remove gives you an error. So let's say my set, or what was the name of the set we created? Let's say this set dot remove, let's say something. So it will give you an error because something is not there in the set. But let's say if we say apple, apple is also not there. Oh, then this apple will be removed from the set. Okay, we already run this one time, that's why it is giving us an error. Yeah, so now banana is removed from this, but try to run this again. So now banana has been removed already and you are trying to run this again, so it will generate you an error, right? So yeah, this is how you can work with your sets. So in today's video, we covered the basics of data types, uh, and the basic syntax, the naming conventions, and how Python is important, right? And so much methods you learned. So this will be appearing to be easy to you now, but when you try to do this on your own, it will be mixed up in your mind because there are too many methods and too many data types to work on. So I request you that you practice this, right? Don't just watch this, because watching this is very easy, but when you try to do this you'll forget that what method is with that I used with list, let's say tuple. So there are different methods, right? So you have to practice this, and you have to remember this a little bit. This is the only thing that I don't like. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, the remembering part, I don't like it that much. But yeah, you have to remember it because there are too many methods, right? So yeah, practices, and I'll see you in the next video with more interesting talks and topics. So this is it for today's video. If you have any doubts, or let's say if you liked something, kindly drop it into your comment section and give a like to this video. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.